How's it, Oaks? Welcome to the Straight Line Podcast. Today, topic of discussion is the recently held Cape Town Cycle Tour. Now, the Cape Town Cycle Tour is held annually on the second Sunday in March. And yeah, we had the annual run around the peninsula last Sunday. From what I saw, perfect conditions, sunshine, a little bit of a wind around, great racing conditions. We'll talk about the elite men and the elite ladies race, what I saw from the coverage. I'm busy having a look at it right here now. But yeah, let's touch bases. The elite ladies race. The elite ladies have a separate start area from the elite men. They start out near Simonstown. They do the lap, Smithswinkel, Chapman's Peak, Suikerbos, and finish outside Greenpoint. The elite men will start a bit further back in Cape Town. But yeah, the women's race out the blocks, it wasn't too aggressive, too fast. Riders tried to get away, but never really more than 10 seconds. But what I did enjoy from that race was the bunch was, if I'm guessing, around about 70 riders strong, which that was a good thing. More ladies getting on bikes, more ladies wanting to race. Very cool. Yeah, the first 30 odd K, there was no real excitement. I would say the biggest excitement was the fact that Carla Oberholzer punctured. Relatively quick change, back in the bunch, no problem. Then the riders head on to Chapman's Peak, which is pretty much where most of the action happened. Heading into the lower slopes, Sonara Groves really put the pressure on. She split the bunch up. She was basically pacing all the way up, little chappies, up the climb, split up a hell of a lot. Then descending around the back, there was a group left of about 10 or 11 riders. Catherine Collane took the initiative from the bottom part of Groot Chappies, if you want to call it that. Strong on the race side a little bit more, but for me the most decisive move came when Tiffany Keep, she went to the front and she accelerated. The only rider that was able to go with her was Carla Oberholzer. From what I saw on the video footage, Carla looked like she was under a bit of pressure. Tiffany seemed to be sitting on the front, standing tall, tapping out a good rhythm. Carla didn't really commit or go with her on the climb. Then from behind, Sonara Grove just rode a steady tempo up. Over the top, Tiffany and Carla were ahead. Let's call it 10, 15 seconds maximum. Then very early on in the descent, Sonara brought the group all back on. And then you were left with the riders with Taniel Otto, Joe van der Winkel, Vera Lusa, Carla Oberholzer, Tiffany Keep, Sonara Grove, obviously. Then going down the descent and approaching the climb of Suikerbos. Taniel Otto put in a solid attack from the bottom, and Joe van der Winkel went with her. This was quite a significant little move here because this is going to put the pressure on your favorites to close that. Carla Oberholzer should have a free ride to follow the moves to get across to that break. Over the top of little Suikerbos also had a small gap. But then as they took on big Suikerbos, or the real climb, Manor was on there. Tiffany Keep went to the front and she really put the pressure on. Rode the race to pieces, and then going over the top, you had Tiffany Keep, Sonara Grove, Vera Lusa, and Carla Oberholzer. Those four went over the top. Now, this is where I think Carla Oberholzer made a little bit of a tactical error. Of those four riders that are there, I would suggest that she's probably the better climber of the three. But she didn't really try anything on Chapman's Peak nor Suikerbos. Another way to look at that is maybe she was under pressure herself and she couldn't really do too much about it. So over the top of the climb, all money was on that we're going to go down for a bunch sprint. And then based on this, I put money down on Sonara. I would have thought that she would be the odds-on favorite for the sprint. Funny enough, I put a poll out on Facebook and Instagram on Saturday. Who do you think would be the winner of the race? The resigning majority was Carla Oberholzer to win, then was Sonara Grove, then was Tiffany Keep. Vera Lusa had a couple of votes, but those four ladies were right up there on the poll, and then on race day, boom, they delivered, and they were in the race. So then going into the sprint, firstly, Sonara Grove, I think she started a sprint way too early. She kicked from about 300 meters out. Secondly, that motorbike with the camera crew was way too close to that race. I mean, Sonara kicked, she almost rode into the back of the motorbike. The motorbike pulled her a little bit. Yeah, that type of thing shouldn't be allowed in a race of this magnitude on the South African cycling calendar. So be that as it may, Sonara led out a bit long, and then Tiffany Keep had the legs and she rolled her. She came over her, I'm going to say, in the last 5 to 7 meters. Very good sprint. Tiffany Keep first, Sonara Grove second, Vera Lusa third, Carla Oberholzer fourth. I would have thought that maybe Carla would have tried something going into the last couple of Ks. Those three women that are ahead of her, they should beat her in a sprint most of the time. So yeah, she should have maybe backed herself to try a bit of a longer run. At the 90 Ride Joburg 94.7 last year, she absolutely manhandled everybody. She rode away on the climbs, made everybody look like they were looking for parking. She was strongest there by a mile. SA Road Champs, she won that race. She just beat out Hayley Preen in the sprint. So yeah, with great power comes great responsibility. Sorry, Carla. I would have thought that she would try a little bit more. But anyway, be that as it may. Also, a special mention that I have to make here, that two riders that I would have thought would have played a significant role in this race, Lucy Young and Hayley Preen. They weren't in the race. They were doing national team duty at the African Games. And on Saturday, Hayley managed to take out the win on that. So yeah, well done to Hayley. Right, next up, the men's race. As expected, as you leave town, there were a lot of attacks, ones and twos, guys trying to get away, but history has proven over the years that nothing like that really sticks early on. But what did stick was, as you approach Edinburgh Drive, a group of 8 riders: Brad Scott, Tians van der Bank, Andrew Geldenhuys, Dan Loubser, Charlie McPhail, and Wynand Hofmeyer. They managed to slip away just on the approach to Edinburgh Drive. I don't want to say it was a soft move, but the guys got a good gap, and it gradually started to increase. 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and it started going out and out and out. And then I think at Simonstown, the gap was run about 2 minutes or just over 2 minutes. And looking at the back, there wasn't one team that said, hey, let's get our guys together and let's close this now, or let's control it. There were a couple of ones and twos teams pulling on the front, but they weren't really making too much of a dent into that break. I mean, those guys were working well together. They obviously knew this is their shot at having a good day on Cycle Challenge Sunday, South African World Champs. As the chasing group approached Simonstown, from what I believe, Team Honeycomb really laid it up over the top of Smitswinkel. And so they started to bring the gap down a little bit. They split the race up quite a hell of a lot. The gap was then down to about 1.5 minutes. The break, they all stayed together. Nothing really too much to write home about. The only thing that I noticed from them was, as they approached Chapman's Peak, Dan Loubser put in a little bit of a move. With him doing that, I would assume he did that because the cohesion was starting to run a little bit dry in that group. Andrew Geldenhuys rolled across to him. So, man, as the break came onto Chapman's Peak, they must have had about 30 seconds to the group behind them. What happened from behind was, as the bunch went down Smitswinkel, past Scarborough, headed down Misty Cliffs, as it turned right by Misty Cliffs, over that little lumpy section, the wind was blowing from the right there. And then again, it was Honeycomb boys that really put the pressure on in the crosswind, did cause a split. All of the favorites for the day, the stronger riders, they were in it. And then from that descent section to the bottom of Chapman's Peak, all the riders really committed, and they brought that gap down chop. It was over 2 minutes going past Misty Cliffs, and then coming into the bottom of Chapman's Peak. The break had been caught by the two riders on the front. Now, at the bottom of Chapman's Peak, the Honeycomb boys definitely put the pressure on. I saw Christian Janssen van Rensburg doing a massive turn at the bottom of, well, little chappies, if you want to call it that. As they went past the original break, those guys went straight past over the top of Chapman's. Handru and Dan Locher, they kept a good rhythm. They kept the pressure on. Then from the chasing group behind, Alan Hathley and the Cannondale factory team decided, okay, this is the moment. They're not going to sit around and wait too much from that. So they caused a massive split of all the big hitters. You had Alan Hathley, Charlie Ulrich, Mark Pritson, Alex Miller, Yaku Fenter, Luke Moyer, Sasha Weber, Jaden Tullow. Over the top of the climb, everybody worked well. On the descent of Chapman's Peak, they kind of just established that break and started to open it up. Now, what I find interesting about this move was that there was a lot of single riders. When I say that, I mean there was, bar one team, all the riders that were in that split didn't have teammates with them. So that's going to play a big dynamic, or play a big part of this race towards the back end. On to the descent of Chapman's. Through. It's approaching Little Seikabossi. Again, though, those front riders were still rolling together, keeping it nice and controlled. And on the climb of the actual Seikabossi itself, from what I saw on the TV screens, Alan Hathley really put the pressure on. Now, you must know, if you're sitting on your couch at home on a Sunday morning, having a cup of coffee, watching the camera and watching Alan, going up the climb, and you think to yourself, yes, this guy's going really quick. On the TV screens, it looked like he was going really quick. Chatting to the guys that were in the break, some of the riders had planned an attack towards the top end of the climb, but as I was saying, Alan went so hard up there, you just couldn't. There was no more gas left to give on that. So, as they went over the top, those riders were still together. We had Mark Pritson, Yaku Fenter, Alan Hathley, Charlie Ulrich, Alex Miller, Kent Main, Sasha Weber. Coming down the descent, approaching Camps Bay, if you had a look at those riders that are in that group, I think it's safe to say Kent, and I'm sure you'll agree with me that Kent was probably the rider in a bunch sprint would have not won that race. You can almost put money on it. He would have definitely finished more towards the back end. So, knowing Kent, he's not the kind of guy that's going to say, okay, well, look, I'm happy. I've got a 9th or a 10th place in the Cape Town Cycle Tour. That's a decent result. Kent wasn't happy with that. He was going to try everything to try and get the win for the Team RKC Collective. As the riders went through Camps Bay, and funnily enough, from what I saw on the TV screen, Kent timed his attack pretty much where the Argus used to finish. The riders were on the right-hand side of the road. He was the back. He laid off. He hit them on the left. And initially, there was 1 or 2 riders that tried to go with it, but he got a good gap, and they couldn't jump onto the wheel immediately. So for about 500 to 600 meters, there were 1s and 2s that tried to get it, but nobody really closed it. So then when those 1s and 2s went back, this put a very interesting cliche spanner in the works. Now, Yaku Fenter, Mark Pritson, Alex Miller, and Yaku Fenter, they are not going to want to pull happily here, because you got 2 teammates, the Cannondale factory team, Charlie Ulrich and Alan Hathley. One of them will pull and one of them will sit on. Now, both of those riders are quick, and use the argument, say a guy like Yaku Fenter, he's not going to want to sacrifice his race to pull on the front with one Cannondale factory team rider while the other one is sitting on, because that's almost going to guarantee that he does not win. If he's lucky, he might get 3rd, but all of those single riders didn't want to take that gamble. They all want to look at Cannondale factory team and say, you guys have got the numbers, you do it. So while all of this was happening for a space of about 2.5K, Kent was going absolutely full taps. And what also added to, or what counted in his favor, was that when the gap opened like that, he entered the section of the race where there's a lot of twists and turns, and you can't really see too far what's ahead of you. So he opened up, I must call it, 10 to 15 second gap going into the twists and turns. The group behind, you got guys there thinking, I don't want to chase, I want to wait for the sprint. I'm going to save myself. You got guys maybe thinking, I need to get this break closed, but I don't want to commit. While all this indecision is going on, Kent's 100%, and he's opening that gap. I noticed that when Kent turned left, went down the climb, and then turned right going past the pools. When he turned right around the circle, the chasing group was about to enter the turn to go left. So I'm going to call that 350, 400 meter gap that he had like that on the rise being a bit indecisive. So as he entered on the main street towards Sea Point, yeah, he had about 2.5K to go. Absolutely full taps, no looking back, no waiting. As the chasing group entered past the pools, it still looked a little bit indecisive. You didn't see anybody really wanting to commit to it because everyone's thinking, if I commit, I'm not going to win. Going into the last K and a half, I saw Cannondale Factory. They decided to pull hard. I saw Charlie Elridge. He seemed to commit everything, trying to get Alan across. But at that time, it was all over. Kent had a big enough gap, soloed into the finish line by himself. It's been a long time since a rider has won the Cape Town Cycle Tour and or the Argus solo. I'm going to take a hazard a guess here, 15 plus years. Yeah, so I think this is a very, very good win for the team RKC Collective. A bunch of guys the team doesn't have a financial backer. They've got product sponsors, and it's helping to carry them through the races. And I think something like this, I hope that they can get something together and get a team sponsor together that can help them financially to do more races. So interesting fact about this team: Chris Jooster, Keenan Ruitt, Kent Main, Ruan Deploy. 2022 Cape Town Cycle winner, Chris Jooster. The 2023 Cape Town Cycle Tour winner, Chris Jooster. 2023 Amashova winner, Ruan Deploy. Kent Main came very close to getting on the podium last year at the 94.7. Had a bit of a crash in the last corner, so that cost him for that. But fast forward to 2024 Cape Town Cycle Tour, Kent Main, the winner. So I think, on that team, they've got guys who know how to win, and yeah, they've pulled it off and they've got a good history with that. But anyway, thanks for listening to the show, and I will catch you guys later. Ciao. Bye.